you don't have to go very far in the marketing world these days to find people promising who will help you get unstuck. We have a lot of conversation about stuckness and how to get unstuck these days. And partly what I want to do is turn down the intensity, the kind of fight-flight we can get into when we're afraid we're stuck, and maybe turn up a bit of the thoughtfulness around it, just a little bit. And the first thing I want to say, of course, is if you're in business and you're trying to grow your business, whether you're at the beginning or you're at one of those transition stages, getting stuck is normal, yeah? If you're never getting stuck, it kind of means you're not doing anything, which means you're probably stuck, right? So when we're trying new things, when we're moving into new territory, when we're just breathing and being alive and having feelings and running into our stuff, getting stuck is really normal. And stuckness can be on a spectrum from mere hiccups to full-on stop, right? And I think this seems, well, duh, but it's actually useful to notice this, because I do think for some of us, when we start getting a little, scared around I'm getting stuck again, I'm getting stuck again, we can have kind of an intense reaction to it when if we breathe and allow it to move and wait a few days, maybe it's not as big a deal, yeah? So I just want us to notice that not all stucknesses are the same. This is actually extremely useful. And I want to get into this in a bit more depth because this is something I've actually put a lot of thought into. I am in the San Francisco Bay Area. I don't know where all the callers are from, but in my world, these days, the assumption is if you've got something stuck and not working, it probably means you have an unconscious limiting belief or an unconscious safety pattern. There's a few different ways to talk about it. And what you need to do is find ways to get to the unconscious, limiting belief or whatever it might be. And what I want to say is that this is definitely true for a subset of forms of stucknesses. But it's not true of all of them, and this is actually pretty important because if we don't know which kind of stuckness we're dealing with, we're not going to have the right prescription. So let's imagine you go to a doctor and you complain of a fever. Yeah? It's just a symptom. There could be probably 500,000 things that are running your fever. And some of those causes, you could be recommended to go home and sleep. And for others, you might be admitted to the hospital immediately. Yeah? Without knowing what kind of disease process is going on that's causing the fever, we have no way of knowing what the correct approach to dealing with it is. So having some skillfulness as you grow in your business life around noticing what kind of stucknesses you're running into and what are useful approaches to each one, I'm telling you, it's gold. This is when my business shifted, when I started understanding some of these subtleties. And over and over, I've seen clients who begin to understand these subtleties. They tend to relax and they're able to move forward better because not all stucknesses are the same and not all stucknesses are crises. Yeah? So I want to summarize the three types. In my world, I'm just going to say there are three types. The first one is what I call developmental kinds of problems or stucknesses. These are, there are two flavors of this. One is that they're learning issues. I'm stuck building my website because I don't know how to build a website. You know? And in order to help you move forward, either you need some learning about how to build the website or you need to get some support and start paying someone else to build your website. You know? So there's learning issues. There are also cycles, to be really fair, right? We all know the cycle of the seasons. We don't try and grow things in the winter that are meant to be planted and grown in the summer. We have seasons as well. We have learning cycles that sometimes present developmental difficulties, that are totally normal. I'll just give you an example of one, which I've seen over and over and over again. Anyone on the call ever had something that I call fraud syndrome? The feeling that you might be a charlatan and you don't have anything actually to contribute to anyone? Really? Who am I to be saying I can fill in the blank, right? My experience is that developmentally, people go through this almost every time they go through a level leap. So whenever in your business you're doing something really, really new, we naturally feel like kind of a fraud or a charlatan because it's new. We are not expert at it yet, whatever it is, that new program, that new modality, moving from working one-on-one to moving to teaching. It is natural to feel like this. And the answer is not to, go off and get your limiting beliefs unraveled. The answer is just to keep on moving forward and let it cycle through. Because it will cycle through. As you teach more, you will feel more confident, and you will lose the feeling of being a fraud. So I just offer that up as an example of many kinds of stucknesses that we identify as being somehow very serious problems when actually they're just learning issues or they're cycle issues. They're issues of seasons. The second type of problem or stuckness are issues around personal alignment. This is very, very important, especially for alternative practitioners and coaches like ourselves, for whom issues of values and integrity are paramount. They're very, very important criteria for us. So every once in a while, we are going to go down a path. Perhaps someone gave us some good advice, or we thought, well, this makes sense. I'll try this niche. And it doesn't work very well. The question I would like to ask is this possibly an alignment issue? That is your inner wisdom shutting you down and keeping you from going down a path that's not in alignment with your true heart? It could be the marketing approach you just don't like. Other people use it, that's fine, but it doesn't feel good to you. It could be the niche, again, that makes total sense, but it's just not alignment with you. Having some feeling for alignment issues is so important for alternative practitioners and coaches because we're kind of all about alignment in many ways. And if we get too far off of our true north, things do tend to get stuck for us. So having a way of dealing with that is very, very important. And by the way, I'm going to get to ways of dealing with this in a moment. I just want to describe these for a second. Finally, the last one is the one I started out with, which are the unconscious blocks, the limiting beliefs, that sort of thing. The question is, how do we know when that's what's going on? And you can never know for sure. You always find out kind of in hindsight, oh, that was an alignment issue. Oh, that was a developmental issue. Oh, that was an unconscious block, yeah. But there are three things that are kind of a tip-off that this may be a very serious unconscious safety pattern that you're dealing with of some sort or another. One, if when you try and deal with it or push against it, it can shut everything else down. This is often a sign that we're dealing with something very deep, very primal, very safety-oriented. If it manifests extremely intense feelings, terror, heartbreak, despair, all those kinds of feelings are generally hooked up with very deep unconscious safety patterning. Yeah. And then finally, the last one is if this stuckness you're dealing with it gives you the impression that it's kind of a lifelong pattern. It's not just showing up around the website. It's like this way of procrastinating or this way of hiding or this way of manifesting rejection has been going on your whole life. If that's the case, again, we're probably dealing with something in this category of fairly intense and important, very structural unconscious block. The good news is that I actually think these are, if I were to sort of guess, this is one-third, one-third, one-third. About one-third of the issues, the stucknesses we run into in business are developmental or learning issues. About one-third are alignment issues, and maybe one-third are unconscious blocks. Okay? So I hope you're just beginning to get a feel for this a little bit as I talk about it, because I want to invite you into a little bit of an exercise here. I'm using some of the constellation work that I do. So again, if you're not in a quiet place, this will be difficult for you to do, but you can get a little feeling for it, and again, you'll be able to go back to the recording later and do it at your own pace. So for a moment, I want you to imagine three representations for a second. The first one is developmental stucknesses. The second one is alignment stucknesses. And the third one is unconscious safety blocks, okay? Just imagine like there's three representations for each of those kinds of stucknesses maybe standing in front of you. And close your eyes if this helps you to do this. And all I want you to do is get a feeling for how each one of these feels to you when you're having them. So please just take a second and step into the representation for developmentally related stucknesses. Just step into that. Just feel in your body, what is it like when your system, yourself, is struggling with a developmental issue. Something you got to learn, something you just got to cycle through. Just notice the body feelings and the self-talk and the general experience inside of there. Okay, good job. Step out of that and just, bookmark a couple of the main things you noticed inside of there. Yeah, this is going to be very brief. My apologies. Normally we'd want to probably do this longer, but I just want you to get a feel for it, just a little taste. Now, step into representation for alignment-related stucknesses. Stuckness that comes from being out of alignment with your heart. Notice what that feels like to you. What's it feel like in your body? What are the emotions? What's the self-talk in there? Again, without judgment, without needing to change it, just in a spirit of curiosity. And then step back out. Come back to yourself. Good job. Bookmark the main things you noticed about that. And now finally, the representation for unconscious safety blocks. Stuckness is related to that. Go ahead and step into that one. Just feel what that's like. What's the body feeling? What are the emotions? What's the self-talk there? What's it like in there? And then step on out. Good job. I do understand for some of you the differences may have been very obvious. For other ones, they may have been more subtle. That's okay. Just notice some of those more subtle differences. And now, just again in the spirit of curiosity, of adventure, I invite you to bring to mind a current stuckness you have. It doesn't have to be the biggest one in the universe, but if that's the one you'd like to choose, that's fine too. No worries. Just choose a stuckness you have present in your life right now. And once you've chosen one, just allow yourself, in a sense, to inhabit the problem, this stuckness. Just let it be in your body for a moment. And I have a question for you as you do that. Which of the three versions of stucknesses does this feel most like? Just do a little exploration and comparing. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's just getting an impression, getting a sense of it. And then step out of your problem and maybe move your body a little bit, pat your legs with your hands. Just come on back. And again, if that all went too quick, I imagine for most of you that went too quick. This is something you can do more slowly on your own. So I just wanted to give you a taste for beginning to acquire the capacity to discern between different kinds of stucknesses. It's actually very important. You know? When something is merely a learning or a developmental issue, but we've ID'd it as some kind of deep unconscious problem, it tends to stabilize the problem. It makes it hard for it to move through, you know? Or just get to the learning or the supporting we need that would make it go away, you know? I hope you got a little taste of that in that exercise. And we're going to have one or two more short ones. At this point, I just want to say a few words about the best ways to address these kinds of stucknesses, yeah? This title of the night is Getting Stuck and Getting Unstuck. When it comes to the developmental issues, I've really already mentioned it. It's acquire the learning you need, get the support you need. For a lot of us, we sit down and try and build websites when that is not our genius and we need to hire someone else to do it. Getting someone else to manage our finances, getting the support we need. Or if it's a cycle thing, just letting it write itself out. You know? If it's fraud syndrome because we're trying something new, we just hang in there and wait till it passes, because it will. It'll pass. Yeah? Just as sure as winter turns into spring, it will pass. If it's an alignment issue, this is where many people will insist, and I agree with them, that having a spiritual practice for finding guidance about your heart's deepest desires with respect to your business is critical. It is just, it's kind of not optional. Even for the atheists in the group, having some way to, in a disciplined and ongoing way, examine your heart for the deeper desires and knowings. It's just foundational, because there's so many ways in business that we can get off our paths, off our tracks. Happens all the time. Worries about money, advice from a well-meaning coach that wasn't a good fit for us, the commitment to a niche that made sense, but it's just not working. All kinds of things can get us off the path. And without some kind of spiritual practice for finding guidance, it's pretty tough to find our way back. So very, very brief exercise. We're just going to get the teeniest taste of this. I want to invite you, in just a little bit of quietness, bring to your heart an issue in your life, a stuckness, that you wonder whether it might be an alignment issue. You don't need to know it is, just you think it might be. Just bring it into your heart for a moment and breathe. This is a powerful question I've learned from my Sufi coaches, to ask of the divine or of our higher self, whatever you want to call it, ask this question: what's really true here? And then be in silence and listen. What's really true here? And then just notice, whatever you got. How to have a spiritual practice with respect to your business could be not only a whole hour, it could be a whole day or a whole week. But I invite you to ask yourself whether that's some part of your business plan that might stand for some renewed commitment, because it is very, very important for staying on the path for us in our business life. Finally, when it comes to unconscious blocks, the first thing we're going to say is, number one, when we're dealing with these kinds of basic childhood-based, ancestrally-based safety patterns, you probably need to get change work assistance. Yeah, it's the way it is. It's an investment in your business to work with a family constellations person, an NLP person, a hypnosis person, Byron Katie person. There are a lot of people out there doing this kind of stuff, but it's probably going to require a little bit of professional assistance. However, the next best thing is just a principle, which I'm sure everyone on this call already knows, but these sort of universals are things we can never stop hearing enough of on occasion, which is to stop resisting these kinds of stucknesses, to engage acceptance and allowing, making space for the stuckness and all the feelings that go with it. Make the assumption that this pattern has an intended positive for you. Probably one of two things. One is to keep you safe. The other one is to help you belong to your family. They're out of date. Nonetheless, these patterns are well-intentioned. They wish good things for you. And when we can resist these stucknesses a bit less, even the ones that are driving us nuts and we've had for years, and they're just driving us into the ground, yes, even those, if we can do just a little bit less resisting, it does tend to shift things a little bit. The final thing I want to say about when we're really running into these unconscious limiting belief types of blocks and stucknesses, it's very important to stay in action in other ways in your business. Yeah? So if the website isn't working, or you're not going to go networking, or you just can't niche, or whatever it is, do the things you can do easily. You like posting stuff on Facebook. You like going networking. I have a friend who just loves, when all else fails, she loves to go networking. God bless her. Keep moving forward on the things that you can stay in action about, because that tells your brain, it tells your spirit that you are able to take action on your own behalf. It's really important that the stuckness is not all of you. It's just this one little part. So it's very important to stay in momentum and keep moving forward on whatever it is you can move forward on.